Offset barrel smokers, drum smokers, water smokers, electric smokers. Smoking is easy, but it isn't particularly simple. Coming up, smoked scallops with jicama salsa, smoke roasted chicken with horseradish dip, and baby back ribs with a prickly pear barbecue sauce. It's Smoking 101 at the stunning J.W. Marriott Star Pass Resort in Tucson, Arizona. I'm Stephen Raichlen, and this is Project Smoke. Project Smoke is about one of man's oldest and most universal cooking techniques, reimagined with new flavors and new technologies. Together, we'll explore how to smoke everything, from the usual meats to cocktails and even desserts. First up, smoked scallops with tomatoes and jicama salsa. This dish features a technique called cold smoking. The purpose of cold smoking is to smoke the food without actually cooking it. For this smoker, the smoke generation system is located next to, not directly in contact with, the smoke chamber. It burns sawdust discs. I'm using alder, which is one of the preferred fuels of the Pacific Northwest. You simply load the discs into the hopper, where it's ferried to an electric heating element, and the spent discs drop into a water-filled bowl. Now, the key to cold smoking is that the heat and smoke source is away from the smoke chamber, and the smoke is funneled to the smoke chamber by this metal tube. In the old days, they would actually have a fire here, a smoke chamber here, and a little underground trench or tunnel that would ferry the smoke. This is the smoke chamber. The key to cold smoking is you never want to go higher than 90 to 100 degrees. There are two basic methods of smoking: cold smoking and hot smoking. In cold smoking, you are smoking the food without cooking it. In hot smoking, you are both smoking the food and cooking it. So take the example of salmon. Nova Scotia-style salmon, Scandinavian-style salmon, Scottish-style salmon are all cold smoked. And this gives you a very different texture, very different flavor than hot smoking. Hot smoked salmon would be like a kippered salmon. The flesh of the salmon flakes like cooked fish, but it has a strong smoke flavor. We were lucky to score some luscious sea scallops from Kodiak Bay in Alaska. Season them with coarse sea salt and freshly ground black pepper. Transfer the scallops to the smoking rack. Now place the scallops in the smoke chamber and rack up the remaining scallops the same way. Then place the second rack of scallops in the smoker. And you can see we have really nice, fragrant, aromatic alderwood smoke. I tasted these scallops at a restaurant in Anchorage called Crush. Beautiful dish. Simple, quick veneer of wood smoke because the scallops came from Kodiak Bay. They were supernaturally sweet, supernaturally fresh. And you want the smoke to be an accent, but you don't want to do anything that will overpower, camouflage that fresh flavor. I thought the scallops would taste really nice with smoked tomatoes. We have some beautiful heirloom tomatoes. Twist off the stem end. I always have a preference for organic or heirloom produce. They're old-timey, old-fashioned tomatoes that were grown for flavor, not necessarily for the ability to be shipped across the country. Cut the tomatoes crosswise into 1/4 inch slices. Then arrange the tomatoes on the smoking rack on the opposite side of the scallops. And place the tomatoes in the smoking chamber. I only filled up the racks halfway. This way the scallop juices won't drip on top of the tomatoes. And arrange the remaining tomato slices on the rack. The whole idea of cold smoking tomatoes is you keep their freshness. Now close the smoke chamber. Smoking time will be about an hour and a half. What you're looking for is a light bronzing or patina of smoke on the scallops. To go with the cold smoked scallops, a quick jicama mango salsa. Start with finely diced jicama, a tuber that tastes like a cross between potato and apple. Next, diced mango, red bell pepper, yellow bell pepper, chopped fresh cilantro, thinly sliced scallion, finely chopped jalapeno chili, a little brown sugar for sweetness, freshly squeezed lime juice, and extra virgin olive oil for richness. Now mix these ingredients together, breaking up any lumps in the brown sugar. And just check the seasoning. The jicama gives you a really nice crunch. How do you know when the scallops and tomatoes are ready? Well, the scallops will be bronzed with smoke, but you can see they're still quite yielding. In effect, they're still raw in the center. And the tomatoes, well, they're cool to the touch. To put this together, place a slice of smoked tomato on the bottom. Then cut the scallops through the center. You have one side white and one side bronze with smoke. And finally, to finish the scallops, a spoonful of the jicama mango salsa. And it really makes the scallops pop. So let's see how we did. That alder smoke flavor is really nice. It complements the scallop without overpowering it. And the tomato. It's amazing what smoke does to commonplace ingredients. I like to think of smoke as the umami of barbecue. So now you know how to cold smoke seafood and tomatoes. Next up, barbecue chicken with a horseradish dip. Chicken with white barbecue sauce originated at Big Bob Gibson's in Decatur, Alabama. The Project Smoke version features a technique called smoke roasting and a special smoker called a drum smoker or upright barrel smoker. First step, fill the coal pan with charcoal briquettes. Then take about 40 briquettes out and place them in a chimney starter. To light the chimney starter, fill the bottom with crumpled newspaper. And to generate smoke, we're using one of the classic woods of the South, pecan chunks. You'll need 3 chunks on top of the coals. And just lower the coal basket into the upright barrel smoker. Now, once the coals are lit, dump the coals on top of the unlit coals. This technique is called top-down ignition. The fire actually burns from the top down, and that gives you a long, even burn. The next thing you want to do is cut the chicken in half. Using poultry shears, first cut down one side of the backbone, then the other side. On Project Smoke, we try and use organic chickens. Remember, what your chicken eats and how it's raised is as important as how you smoke it. So take out the backbone, remove any extra lumps of fat. Using a large knife, cut the bird in half. Take a hook and hook the chicken under the breast so it hangs like this. Insert metal bars in the smoker. Woo! That pecan smoke is great, but it's really strong. Then hang the chickens on the bars. And you might think that the bottoms of the chicken would burn because they're directly over the coals. But thanks to the thermodynamics of this cooker, it maintains an even temperature throughout. The cooking time is about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Meanwhile, let's make the dip. Start with mayonnaise, 1/2 cup of grated horseradish, 1/2 cup of cider vinegar, freshly grated lemon zest. This is the aromatic, oil-rich outer rind of the lemon. Sea salt, freshly ground pepper, and whisk the ingredients into a smooth dip. And we'll use this sauce both for glazing the chicken and as a barbecue sauce. Upright barrel smokers are great for long pieces of meat that you hang from the hooks, like whole beef tenderloins, half chickens. Very fuel efficient. They hold in moisture. They're also relatively inexpensive. So if you want to get started in the smoking business without investing thousands of dollars, these are a great choice. It's been 1.5 hours. Let's check the chickens. Oh man, these are gorgeous. You want to cook the chicken to an internal temperature of at least 165 degrees. Insert your instant read meat thermometer into the thickest part of the meat. Bingo, we've got it. Now pull the chicken out and look at that. It has a beautiful mahogany color. And one of the advantages of smoking the chicken in an upright barrel smoker is that you work at a slightly higher temperature, so the skin actually gets crisp. The low and slow method is great for flavor, but it doesn't give you crisp skin. During the smoking process, I basted the chickens with melted butter. I'm just going to baste them one more time. This adds flavor and a beautiful sheen. And when the hooks are cool enough to handle, remove them from the chickens. Now take about 1/4 of your glaze and spoon it into a baking dish. And place the chickens in the sauce so they can absorb the dip. You want to let the chicken absorb the glaze for about 10 minutes. This makes it more tender and juicy. Any leftover glaze can double as a barbecue sauce. So let's see how we did. Take the chicken, and we'll just cut it into pieces. Look at that, the knife just glides through the meat. It's so tender. The color is really beautiful. And it's a little different than the barbecue chicken with red barbecue sauce. This chicken is supernaturally tender. You can see the skin is still crisp. Just forgive me here. Take a slice. breast, and a little of the horseradish dip. Man, that is really nice. Great smoke flavor, super moist. What's really interesting is the barbecue sauce. That horseradish vinegar, the creaminess in the mayonnaise. It's very different than your usual barbecue chicken.
Thank God it's not heavy.
Now this is
That's the prickly pear diced.
So why don't you bring me a whole and show me what it looks like.
When we were planning Project Smoke, I really wanted the crew to be part of the experience.
Did they get the spines off?
Yeah, so it looks like they've already either cut them or you can burn them off too.
It may seem like there's only one person involved, but in fact, it takes an army of people.
Down in water and actually make a syrup out of it
Yeah.
and then strain that
That's
out
what-
and
that's-
then use that to incorporate into other things.
That's what I'm thinking would be the easiest way to do that.
I wanted to introduce the culinary team in our field kitchen that makes all the swap-out dishes, the stylist, and how she works to make the food look so beautiful.
Let me grab it.
I really wanted this whole experience of making the show to be part of the show.
Our next dish brings us to the big daddy of smokers, the offset barrel smoker, made with 20-inch oil pipe and fueled not with wood chips or chunks, but with actual pecan logs. You build the fire in the firebox, start with a bed of charcoal, then add your logs, and the actual smoking and cooking are done in the smoke chamber. One useful feature to look for is a heat diffuser plate, which helps equalize the heat in the smoke chamber. And to do this smoker justice, an icon of American barbecue, spice rub baby back ribs with a prickly pear barbecue sauce. Abby, may I have the ribs? Thank you. Now, next thing is the rub. And it's very easy to rub to remember the formula. It's called a 5-4-3-2-1 rub. 5 parts paprika, 4 parts brown sugar, 3 parts sea salt, 2 parts black pepper, and 1 part powdered mustard. And to rub the ribs, I'll just put on some latex gloves. I like to mix the ingredients with my fingers so you can break up any lumps that may be in the brown sugar. And once the rub is ready, you simply sprinkle it on the ribs and rub it into the meat. That's why they call it a rub. We set up the smoker. You're looking for about 225 to 250 degrees. We'll put the ribs on the smoker. And I have another batch that we rubbed earlier. There are 3 primary ways you control the heat. First of all, by the amount of wood in the firebox. Second of all, by controlling the damper on the side of the firebox. Remember, more air means a hotter fire, less air, cooler fire. And finally, by controlling the damper on the chimney.
Baby backs are ribs that are incredibly well marbled, they're intrinsically tender, they're relatively quick cooking, and if you're new to the game of smoking, this is the rib you want to do because it almost always comes out tender. It's very hard to overcook.
So here's how you make the prickly pear barbecue sauce. Start with a couple of tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Next, add finely chopped celery, onion, garlic, and diced prickly pears, also known as cactus pears. If you don't have prickly pear, you can use diced watermelon. Saute these ingredients together, and when they just begin to brown, add your ketchup, cider vinegar, Worcestershire sauce, a bay leaf, brown sugar, smoked paprika, freshly grated lemon zest, and I use lemon zest a lot. It really adds brightness to barbecue sauce. And freshly squeezed lemon juice. I always squeeze it between my fingers to catch any seeds. Whisk the ingredients together and simmer the sauce for about 30 minutes. Then puree it in a blender or food processor. And this is what the final barbecue sauce looks like. Wow, that's really interesting, the cactus pear. It's a sweet, almost kind of watermelon-y flavor. Once an hour, keep the ribs moist and add an extra layer of flavor. Spray with apple cider. And remember, the ribs closest to the firebox will cook faster than the ribs further away. So periodically rotate the ribs so that all cook evenly. Total cooking time on the baby backs will be about 4 to 4.5 hours. Don't forget to spray the ribs every hour. The last step is to lacquer the ribs with part of the barbecue sauce. You'll actually cook the sauce right into the meat. So, how do you tell when the ribs are ready? Well, there are at least 3 tests. First, there's the shrink test. The meat will have shrunk back from the ends of the bones by about 1/4 of an inch. Then there's the break test. You lift the ribs up, and by gravity alone, the meat will start to break open. And finally, you should be able to pull the ribs apart with your fingers. I think we've nailed it. I don't know about you, but I'm getting mighty hungry. Here are our spice-rubbed, pecan-smoked baby back ribs. And then we'll just cut the ribs into individual bones. This smells incredible. And the knife glides through the meat like through butter. And if you look closely, you'll see a subcutaneous layer of pink here. This is called the smoke ring, and it lets you know you've nailed it. Well, let's see how we did. Oh my God. Great smoke flavor, intense spice flavor, super tender, moist. These are everything that baby backs should be. Now you know how to smoke spice rub baby back ribs, smoke roasted chicken, and cold smoked scallops. Thank you for joining us on Project Smoke. See you next time. Guys, come on in. There you go.
Thank you.
Right now, I can go in and order you 8 pounds of filet.
That should do it.
The brown and the white pops. Sweet. Good work.
This is totally loose.
Our next dish brings us into fueled not with wood chips or chunks, but actual pecan logs.